Let there be light. That's, God. Was quoting God.
Congratulations! The simple fact that you're standing here listening to me means you've made a glorious contribution to science.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the 4th episode of this tutorial for Portal 2 Community Edition. Just a quick message before we begin. I want to say thanks so much for those of you supporting me in the comments and things like that, liking the video, subscribing as well. I just want to say thanks so much. Okay, now I've been trying to research lighting regarding strata source the entire day now, so this is why this video is out a bit later. It can get very complex. I'm just going to go over the basic stuff, but even then there's still a lot, so I have no clue how long this episode is going to be, but I'll stop yapping and we'll just get straight onto the tutorial. Now, one thing that's entirely optional, but I'm going to do just to kind of highlight and emphasize how good the lighting is in Stratosource, I'm going to be utilizing the PBR textures that I downloaded off the workshop. I showed you how to download these textures in episode 1, so if you don't have these, just go back to episode 1 and I show how to download these. Now I'm going to make a relatively small room here, just because I really want to emphasize just the lighting in general, just make it a bit obvious for you. In larger scenes or larger maps, it can be a bit hard to kind of show that just because there's so much open space and you'd have to kind of zoom into little tiny parts. Another thing I don't think I've actually shown you how to do yet is manipulate textures on a brush. So basically, let's say I want these squares to be in line or the same size as my brush basically. If you go to the toggle texture button here, and with your brush selected, you can actually edit the texture scale and how much it's offset by. So I usually put this at 150 and I just hit apply, or if I put these both at 150, yeah, you can see how it changes how large the texture is on the brush basically. Okay, here I am. I've just made this tiny little test chamber looking room. We'll get immediately onto the lighting. So if you just click on the entity tool, track down an entity, and we want to rename this to either light_RT or light_RT_spot. And that's because these entities are Stratosource's version of the light entities. So these have all the cool new features such as clustered lighting, which is a way it just handles lighting for better performance, and also has dynamic lighting. Dynamic lighting is the most important thing because that allows you to basically have real-time shadows, because before with these legacy light entities with just light and light spot, they use something called static lighting, if I'm correct with that, and that basically works by when you compile your map, all the lighting is calculated on the compilation, so there's no real-time shadows or anything, but light_RT and light_RT spot allows for real-time shadows, volumetric lighting and all that. And then static lighting just bakes the lighting immediately on compilation. Okay, I've just got a light_RT entity in my map here, and I'll show you the very basic properties you can edit, and I'll try to explain them the best I can. The first one is the brightness key value right here. As you can see in its description, color and brightness of the light. So this basically works by using RGB values. As you can see here, you've got 255, 255, 255. That basically just means it's white light. And then this fourth value at the end here is the brightness. Now you don't have to put in RGB values like that. There's a little pick color thing that you can just choose, and you'll have the entire spectrum right there. Okay, now next on the list, I think, are these two really important settings if you want to make really good looking lighting, is this volumetric light scale and volumetric density. Now, the best way I can explain these two settings is explaining like just the tiniest bit how volumetrics work. Basically, volumetric lighting creates this like shape which basically like recreates like God rays or fog, and it does that by using individual cells is what they're called. So you can have like a cell of like of volume, and it gives that area volume in order to create realistic lighting. Now, specifically volumetric light scale, this determines how large each individual cell in your volumetric lighting, like how large it's going to be, or I think so anyway. By my testing I've done, that's what it seems like, and I'm confident that's what it is. And then next is volumetric density, which is kind of self-explanatory. It literally says the volumetric density is, it's basically just how many cells should there be in a given area. Now, I think these three settings right here are the biggest ones that you should at least know about. First is specular light mode. Basically, this tells the light whether to use specular properties or not. And specular just means like how shiny should an object be. It just creates a shader to actually make shiny objects look shiny. The old Source engine used an old method of doing this, which wasn't specular, and it just didn't look as good. But in Portal 2 Community Edition, they've added specular to the Source engine. Now, direct light mode and indirect light mode shouldn't be too hard to understand. Direct light mode literally just says, do you want to use the dynamic system or the static system to cast direct light from the light entity itself? And then indirect is kind of the same thing, but you can only do static only. But instead, well, it's not instead, but on top of the direct light, it's gonna allow your light to just bounce around the scene, which just makes it look far, far better. Now, this setting right here, the initial shadow size, is actually quite important. If you go on the drop down menu here, you'll see that you have options 1 to 7, and this basically determines the quality of the shadow that the light emits. So let's say I put a cube in front of my light. If I had this initial shadow size set to 1, the shadows just wouldn't look that great. They'd be really blurry, really just unrealistic, I guess you could say. And then 7 is the best quality you can have for shadows. I do want to warn you though, because you need to take this into account when testing the performance of your maps, is that increasing the shadow size does use up more VRAM. So I feel like 4 is a good place to have it, because it's like, you know, medium quality, but it's just something to take into account so that like your maps aren't too demanding. Okay, now by far this is the most important one. I probably said that for every other setting, but if we go to the tabs up here where it says flags, you just want to click on it, and where it says shadowed, I'm going to enable that just to demonstrate what it can do, but this enables the real-time shadows that we can see in Stratosource. But once again, do take into account that this also uses more VRAM. So when you're performance testing, like your test chambers and maps, just make sure things aren't set too high, like I said. One thing I also just wanted to mention is that with the link in the description to the Strata wiki, it explains how you should be using dynamic lights with the real-time shadows and all that properly in your maps. So it's like lights that are close to the player, that are moving about, you want to enable shadowed as well. And this setting right here, always update, you want to enable that if you have moving objects in your map that aren't physics objects. So like a cube, for instance, that's a physics object. That's always going to have real-time shadows, so you don't need to worry about that. But if you have a moving platform, for instance, and you want real-time shadows on that, you've got to enable always update. Okay, the next light entity that we're going to be going over, which shouldn't be as long because they share all the same settings except for two settings. If I can, yeah, these two settings right here. Basically, a light underscore RT underscore spot acts as a spotlight, so it only illuminates a specific portion of your map. Specifically, you see how there's this cone coming out the bottom of the light. That's where it's going to illuminate that. And we can actually change the size of this cone by changing these two settings right here, the inner bright angle and the outer fading angle. So they're actually highlighted. The inner bright angle, you can see right here, is this more white or pale bit of the cone, and then the outer fading is this more grey part of the cone. Basically, these two just determine how large they should be. So let's say I wanted to increase the size of it. I'm going to put this to, let's do 50 and 60. And if I hit apply, you can see the cone below the spotlight has increased and it's going to illuminate that area now. Okay, so I'm also guessing you want an actual like model for the light to be coming out of. So if you go over to the entity tool, place on an entity, and we want to change this to prop underscore static, just like that. We want to hit apply. Change the world model. I already have it in my filter here. Just type up light. There's like a large selection of light models. Like there's a cage light here. There's a hanging light right here. You can also it's right click to zoom in and out, and then left click to move around the model. I'm specifically going to use, I think it's lab B. Yeah, here we go. These glass underscore light cover ones. I'm going to be using these ones for my test chamber. They look a little weird in the preview here, but don't worry about that. We'll fix that. I'll just double click on it, hit apply, and you'll see we have it in our scene now. I'm just going to put a couple on this drop down ceiling right here. So this is actually a very useful setting that I forgot to mention earlier for these prop underscore static light models. If you see this option called skin here, some objects have different skins that you can apply to them. So obviously this is skin 0, so they're going to look like that. But let's say I wanted the test chamber lights from the more like dilapidated, so the more like yellowed out lights. I just change the skin to 1, I hit apply, and you'll see right there, oh, there's a bit of Z fighting. But there we go, you see in our test chamber right there, the more yellow lights. For my test chamber, I'm going to change the skin to 2, and that will give me more of these cleaner looking blue lights. Okay, now that you have some lights in your test chamber, let's put the entities down that's actually going to cast the light. So for my purposes, I'm going to be using a light underscore RT. because a light underscore RT emits light in all directions, and that's what I want for my lights. I don't want a spotlight just highlighting one singular part of my map, basically. Also, this is just kind of more of a tip. If you have lights like this that are close to a wall, I would personally push the light up like nice and close to the light. I just personally think that looks better. And if they're in more of an open space like this, I would put them just under the light. Okay, for my little test right here, I'm going to select all these light entities by holding down Control and selecting them. Hit Alt Enter. Just because it's a very small scene, I'm going to put the initial shadow size to 7. I'm going to hit Apply. And I'm also going to enable shadowed right there, just because for ceiling lights like this, the light can just sometimes like leak out there, like it's just not properly casting a shadow like it should be, but that shadowed thing helps, and also it lets us use real-time shadows. Now, before we actually just test out these lights, it doesn't really matter from what I can see if we do a fast or the full compile or portal lighting full compile. I just like to do a portal lighting full compile because that just makes the most sense to me. But basically, at the end of the day, just make sure you have this light exe thing checked. And if you're going from fast to any other configuration, I know when I did this the first time, I didn't have game exe checked, and that didn't launch the game after I compiled the map. So just also make sure you have that checked. Okay, here we go. That looks a little better. As you can see, I have my cube right here. I'll pick it up, and I don't know how well you can see it. There we go. That's a bit better. But as you can see, if I move my cube around, you can actually see the shadow of it updating in real time. I just chuck it around like that. I know I don't really know how to fix this issue myself. I don't think it is an issue. This is just me being dumb. As you can see, the shadow kind of cuts off there. I just delete the light entity and make a new one, and that usually fixes it. But if I chuck this around, you can see that we have real-time shadows, and it looks great with these PBR textures as well. Now, I don't know how good of an example of volumetric lighting this is. This looks much better when you have like a wall, let's say with holes in it, and you have a light behind it to cast like God rays through the holes. But I've just quickly enabled the volumetric lighting on my lights here by just tweaking those 2 settings that we went over earlier. I set the density to 0.1 and the other one to 0.5, and you can tell there's a very obvious fog, but obviously these look much better casting God rays through holes. Now, the 2 lights that we just went over, the spotlight and these normal lights, can be absolutely amazing for like test chambers, but we can also do environmental lights, so things like the sun. I'm gonna make like a little patio area right here. I'll show you how to first put in a skybox, then we'll put in the actual environment light itself, and then how we can update that environment light to also use the dynamic lighting that Strata Source supports. Okay, as you can see, I've just made this little like outdoor area kind of thing. I just made a hole in the wall using the clipping tool, and I used the dev textures and a grass texture for the floor, which you can find all of those by just like searching for them in the browse thing. But skyboxes do work a bit weird in Hammer. You have to make them as brushes, and because my room is simple enough, I can just hold down Shift, click, unclick, and duplicate this floor to make it a ceiling. And then we want to hit browse right here. We want to search for tools. Scroll down a bit and you'll see this tools skybox thing right here. And you don't want to do tools skybox 2D, but choose tools skybox and then just apply current texture. And this will now act as our skybox. Now you can't actually edit what the skybox is from this. You have to go to map right here, and it says map properties at the bottom, and then it says skybox texture name. Now the only issue with Portal 2 is the fact that it doesn't have that many skyboxes, and that's because, well, the entire game practically takes place underground, but the most sky looking skybox is literally just sky_fog. Just change it to that and it will look like a blue sky. Okay, now that we've got this little outdoor area, we can chuck down another entity, and this time we can rename it to a light_environment. And you don't really need to change the settings in this, but you can obviously if you want to. One thing to make sure is that this light does have to be inside of your map. Not, I can't grab this light environment and I can't put it outside. If I can, I can't put it outside like that. Even though that makes sense, it just doesn't work because of the way Hammer handles lighting. I think. I don't know if you've experienced this ever yet, but sometimes when you compile your map, it gives you the error saying that your map is leaking, and that basically means there's a hole somewhere in your map that just like goes out into the void, and Hammer just doesn't like that. And because you have a light source in the void, it considers it as like a part of the map that's leaking, so just make sure you have it in your room here. Now you can actually directly control the direction that the sun is coming from by literally just rotating this light in the viewport here. Now if we were to playtest our map right now, you'd find out that if I picked up this cube and I put it into this outdoor area, not only is the lighting not going to look that good, but we don't have those real-time shadows that we had with these lights. So we actually need to add one more entity which kind of overrides the settings of the light environment, and that's called a light... Oh, here we go. Environment_cascade_light. Just change it to that. Hit apply. I just like to... you want to set it to the same rotation, basically, as your environment light here. And this is just kind of to keep things clean. I click on this light right here, and I click on the environment light, and I just group them. So when I move them around, they're one thing. And basically what this cascade light does is that it adds those exact features. It adds just much better smooth looking lighting and the real-time shadows from the sun itself. Okay, here we are in our beautiful looking test chamber now, and we can pick up this cube, and as you can see we have nice lovely smooth lighting and real-time shadows. And if we go to our outdoor area right here, we can see the sun, and we also have nice lovely shadows with just a really good looking lighting overall. Now I hope this tutorial was good enough, like a good explanation for lighting in the Strata source version of Hammer. It can get very complex. Like I said again, I'd really advise you to search up like lighting on the wiki. I'll have it linked below as well. And also one more thing that I'll probably tell you, because I had this setting off by default. If you literally just go to settings, video, and you scroll all the way down to extra right here, and you should see portal dynamic lighting. If you just enable that quickly, you can actually see that when we place a portal down, they also emit light, so I think that's just a neat little setting that you might want to have turned on. It can make your game look much better. But anyway, I hope you like this tutorial. I'll be making an actual test chamber with proper elevators in the next episode. But like I said again, I hoped I explained lighting good enough for you. I'll see you in the next episode.